Oscar Bobb is special. Welcome back to another video, guys. It's time to talk about Oscar Bobb because he really is a wonderful player. Happy New Year as well to everyone joining in today for this video. I hope you had a lovely New Year. It, of course, is now the second, but it got us Happy New Year for a little time. And given that we're not playing until the weekend, I thought it'd be a nice chance to talk about a player. I didn't do the 5 things learned the other day because I got distracted by something else. What was it I did? I think I talked about Arsenal instead. But one of the topics I was going to cover in the 5 things that we learned from the Sheffield United game was Oscar Bobb, because I think Oscar Bobb, as Guardiola said, is now the reality. This guy is not a guy who, as Guardiola said, who trains with the academy players, then goes back to the EDS, then comes up every now and then. No. This guy is a full-on fledged, qualified, graduated member of the first team from the academy. Oscar Bobb is the reality. And just how good could this young boy be? Now, do let me know, of course. Let me know in the chat what you make of Oscar Bobb in the comments below. How far can he go? Who does he remind you of, and so on? But I'm really excited by this. Now, basically, at the start of the season, I think it's fair to say that Oscar Bobb wasn't really seen in many people's eyes as a potential first-team candidate. You know, he was highly rated for those who knew about him, but he hadn't really been much involved with the first team. Then suddenly he got his chance, and he's had a fair bit of involvement already so far, which I'm very, very, very excited about. I'm looking at his stats over here now, and his involvement has been good. You know, he's had plenty of appearances already in the Champions League. If you're not really sure in general how much he's been involved in, I will show you right now. So this is Oscar Bobb's season record here. Of course, he was involved in the friendlies, as you see there. He had a lot of bench appearances. He, of course, played for Europe, for Norway and so on. Didn't make his debut until at home to Red Star Belgrade, where he came on. So that's 1 appearance there. He got his second against Newcastle. His third against Wolves. His fourth, they're 4th and 5th there for Norway and Spain, sorry. His 4th appearance for Man City against Bournemouth as well. 1 against Young Boys, his 5th. He's had 6 and then 7, 8, 9, 10 appearances for Manchester City first team now. So that's basically really impressive for a guy who sort of wasn't massively involved until the start of this season. 10 appearances for the first team. Now, I'm aware a lot of these have been sort of like... they've been like kind of appearances at the end of the game. But what we're seeing right now is Guardiola starting to trust Oscar Bobb more and more and more. I've been watching Oscar Bobb for many years. I remember when he first signed for Manchester City Football Club, I heard an awful lot about him. Immediately the first thought was, what a name, Oscar Bobb. You know, like, it's just a name that jumps off the page for not really being a superstar name. But at the same time, it's kind of catchy. And you're like, oh, that's interesting. A Norwegian winger. Then you look at him and he looks like a young Leroy Sané. And you're like, okay. He looks like a young Leroy Sané. He plays like a David Silva-Sané hybrid, and he's called Oscar Bobb he's from Norway. He's just a wonderful concoction of attributes and talent and so on. And I remember thinking about him. He was really special, this guy. Very, very talented. I also remember thinking, when everyone was talking about Keiki when we signed him, I even tweeted at the time, and I might even try and find it. I tweeted that I felt like Oscar Bobb had been better than Keiki, then he deserved a chance. And he was never like the obvious superstar, because Cole Palmer would have a greater season, or Liam Delap had a greater season, or maybe James McAtee did. But Oscar Bobb was always very, very good for the academy. Like, consistently excellent. Consistently very, very good. And for me, like, I look at Oscar Bobb as a guy whose best attribute is he's so reliable. Amongst his technical ability, he just doesn't have a bad game. That's what makes Oscar Bobb so special. He's such an intelligent footballer, and he immediately understands the assignment. He knows what he has to do at all times, and it's been interesting watching his development over the years through the EDS. You're like, of course, he played as a right winger an awful lot, but at one point for the EDS, he was playing as a false 9 kind of striker. He has played as a 10 as well in midfield. It's very obvious that City have always rated this guy, and I was always pretty confident that when he got to train with the first team, they would start to really see just how good this kid is. And I think this is what's happened, you know. Oscar Bobb has shown his ability, and Guardiola, more than anyone, appreciates a young technical player. And right now we're in a situation where we've got this guy who's a decent height. He's probably about 5'9", 5'10". He's not massive, but he's not small. He's not like Rico Lewis, who's got about 5'5". He's got, you know, he's a good height. probably about 5'10" or something like that. Similar height to me. He's a good height. He's 20 years old. He's not the strongest, but he's not small either. He's got reasonably broad shoulders. So the physicality issue is just not there whatsoever. He has a really good turn of pace, as we saw the Red Star goal. He's not like Kyle Walker quick, but he's fast. He's fast enough, man. He can get past the player if he needs to. And most importantly, he has a wonderful understanding of what he needs to do at all times. Now, of course, his cameo the other day was what most impressed people. The one against Everton, he was really good in this. A little cameo off the bench for Oscar Bobb, and it was an impressive little cameo. 38 minutes there, and he came on as a sort of... he came on to change the game, essentially. And as you can see by his stats there, he played 38 minutes. He racked up some XG, unexpected assists as well. 38 touches. He completed 26 out of his 28 passes, which is a whopping 93%. One key pass, and we know the key pass. It was a through ball, a beautiful through ball to Phil Foden, who cut it across for Alvarez for a goal. Cross as well, of course. He attempted 2 dribbles. He won 2 of his 5 ground duels as well. He lost the ball 7 times, but that's pretty common. Most attackers do. What that means is where... the ball's played into you really quickly, or you try a dribble, doesn't come off, or whatever. It's just very standard to do that. But overall, for a substitute, a 7.2 there, and the way he added energy to the game, it was really, really impressive. Guardiola talked an awful lot about how they wanted to up the tempo a little bit. And I think we all thought that when Grealish came off, it was Grealish maybe had a knock or something like that. But no, actually... it turned out it was tactical, that Oscar Bobb came on to make an impact. And that is where I think this gets really interesting. Oscar Bobb now has gone from this guy who gets 10 minutes here and there to actually being a viable first-team member, a tactical option off the bench. And that is exciting for me. Like, for various reasons, I feel like some of our young players never really got to that stage. Like, Cole Palmer never got to that stage where Guardiola would bring him on to change the game. He often brought Cole Palmer on when we were comfortable. It was harsh on Cole Palmer. I thought he deserved a little bit more football than that. And maybe it was because the squad was a little bit deeper and we had injuries and so on. That's made it a bit easier for Oscar Bobb. But I feel like Cole Palmer never got to that level. And right now we're seeing signs of Oscar Bobb sort of getting to the level where Guardiola trusts him in basically any single role. And he trusts him to change a game round. He brought him against Aston Villa. He brought him on against Wolves. Difficult games at the time where we weren't doing well. And he didn't change the game or anything like that. But it was more of a sign of trust. And this to me is what I am excited for. Now, someone in the chat, Broccoli, said Cole didn't really take his chances. I think that's sort of true and untrue. I think when Cole Palmer played in his preferred position, which at the time was a right winger, I thought he looked really special. Well, not special, really talented. Like, you could tell that he was there. Cole was often put as a left winger under Guardiola, and that wasn't a role that he was familiar with. Some people can take to roles very, very quickly, but I would argue, like Riyad Mahrez, Cole, if you put a right winger on the left, they're going to struggle a little bit, and Cole was more of a right winger at the time. I know he plays for the middle now at Chelsea, but at the time he was definitely a right winger. And he struggled to adapt to that left wing role. And I know because he told me personally, directly. Genuinely told me directly. But the difference is Oscar Bobb, he's a little bit more Phil Foden like this way, where Oscar, his whole game is a little bit more versatile. And I think this is what gives Oscar Bobb a chance. And this is why we need to talk about him. I think in general, Oscar Bobb has... essentially understanding of the game and the versatility that Guardiola absolutely, he just loves. When you think about Manchester City's players, Riyad Mahrez was sort of an anomaly, really. You look around the first team and you see players playing in multiple roles all the time. Guardiola absolutely loves versatile players who can play across the forward line. And Mahrez was a big part of the team, but he only ever played on the right. And Guardiola, he has no problem with that. But I think a dream Guardiola player is one who can play in multiple positions. And right now, given Manchester City's situation, this is where Oscar Bobb is making his mark, which is very exciting to see. Guys, by the way, please do hit the subscribe button and like on the channel as well. It's massively appreciated. Give the video a like. I want to get to 70k. I'm so close to 70k subscribers. 70k in 2024 would be lovely. So please help support this video by giving it a like as well. And subscribe to the channel if you are new here. You're enjoying this kind of content. So, Oscar Bobb has that versatility to his game, and you look at his performance on the left the other day when he came on. I must admit, hands up, I thought, oh, why is he bringing him on the left here? Is he getting the Cole Palmer treatment? But you could tell immediately that he was totally comfortable because his game is not based off certain angles. His game is based off an understanding of the space around him, which comes with high-level footballers. I'm very excited by Oscar Bobb because I feel like he has an understanding, a 360 understanding that special footballers have. Like Gundogan has it, David Silva has it, Phil Foden has it to an extent as well. Oscar Bobb has such a brilliant technical style where if you get near him, doesn't matter where he is on the pitch, he's able to make space for himself and play the right pass that he needs to. That, time and time again, brilliant decision making, knowing when to pass, when to shoot, aligned with his high technical ability, his burst of pace, his eye for goal as well. Overall, you've got a player here who could reach the very top in football. I really believe that Oscar Bobb has sort of cemented himself in Guardiola's thoughts as a player of high potential and a reliable member of this first team squad. That Sheffield United game the other day, it was not comfortable at all. It wasn't comfortable at this point. We were winning 1-0, playing really well. I think we were playing pretty well. Not really well, pretty decent, you know. But he came on just after the half-time whistle. And it started to turn the screw a little bit. But we got better when he came on, and that's not an exaggeration. And Sheffield United, I know they're not a great side, but they were digging in deep. We'd gone a little bit off the ball towards the end of the first half, and he made the difference. He did. And it could have been very easy for Manchester City to sort of lose the cool a little bit, given that, you know, recently we conceded goals and we conceded chances and so on. But no, Oscar Bobb, actually, he made the difference. He really did. He came on. He played a beautiful pass. The kind of vision that David Silva would play once again. Look, I'm not saying it's going to be David Silva, but it was that level of pass. Eye of the needle stuff. Gundogan, David Silva, KDB. People like that have that vision. High-level players. And that pass to Phil Foden took out 4 players. When you take out 4 players, you're going to have a chance if you've got Manchester City's talent. And Phil Foden, of course, did the rest over to Alvarez, who put it in the back of the net. That essentially sealed the victory for us. That was the buffer that Manchester City needed. And I guarantee you now, if Oscar Bobb hadn't been on the pitch to make that pass, we might have conceded. We might have dropped some points there. And that's what I'm really excited about. That's what I'm really excited about, you know? I think Oscar Bobb really has won Guardiola's trust. Now, of course, the pressing issue here is, if you look at the bench for Manchester City Football Club the other day against Sheffield United, this was the bench. You see there, that was the bench. You had Ruben Diaz, Rico Lewis, Ortega, Phillips, Gomez, Michael Hamilton, Nunes, De Bruyne. You had 3 players missing there, Doku, Haaland, Stones. Does Oscar Bobb keep his position on the bench? Because we know De Bruyne and Nunes are going to be in the squad. Calvin Phillips, well, he might be going. But you look at the players that could drop out. Michael Hamilton definitely will. Sergio Gomez, maybe. I know there's always going to be a new injury, but like, how many substitutes was that, by the way? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Does Oscar Bobb, when everyone's back, keep his place on the bench? That's what I'm a little bit worried about, right? That's the only thing I'm worried about. Michael Hamilton won't be in the squad, obviously. Calvin Phillips might be gone, which might help him. And Sergio Gomez, it's between him and Sergio Gomez. And I don't know who Guardiola would choose there, because right now I would guess it'd be Oscar Bobb. Especially, you know, if we got Rico and another defender on the bench and so on. But Sergio Gomez being able to play at left back, play midfield and so on, I am not so sure there, you know. I'm not so sure who will get the nod there, because if those 3 come back, you know, and they're all available, the only thing is, of course, there's going to be injuries. Like, we're going to have a player out every single week. But right now, Oscar Bobb, he needs to be around that first team. And even then, once again, if Grealish and Doku are available, does he get off the bench if Grealish and Doku are there? I don't think so. Yeah, I probably agree that he's ahead of Sergio. It's the only thing, Sergio Gomez, that is. The only thing is that, you know, positionally, will we need him? Will we need somebody who can play left back instead? Deeper in midfield? Because Oscar Bobb, he's pretty much an attacker, where Sergio Gomez has played as a sort of inverted deep midfield a couple of times. He's played left back a couple of times, played left wing. He's a lot more versatile that way in terms of where he can cover the pitch. So I don't know how it'll go, but that to me is the only potential downside there about his opportunities. But right now, where he stood, look, I didn't think, looking at the start of the season, where he'd be here, you know. I didn't think he would be here. But I'm really happy for him. He's such a wonderful player, you know. And he's doing really, really well. He's doing really, really well. Here's his stats, of course, in general. 6 games played in the league. I think that's what it is. 90 minutes per game. Obviously, no goals or so on. His goal against, of course, Aurora Reds was wonderful, wasn't it? Was it Red Star? It was Red Star. He's having really 0.7 key passes per game, you know? And of course, this is a lot when he's come on in difficult games as well. But he's getting involved. He's looking good. He's looking really good. And I'm very excited to see how he carries on developing. Of course, Red Star was one of his breakout moments. He was good against Urawa Reds too as well. I really like him, man. I think he's an excellent footballer. When you see his stats against Urawa Reds as well, you see in a player. He played the false 9 that day as well for Guardiola. Once again, versatility so key for him. You see the player who can get on the ball. Look at that, 54 touches as a false 9. He misplaced 1 pass. Guys, that is special. It's really good. He scored a beautiful goal as well. You know, got a key pass as well. It's just really good. It's really, really impressive. Like, the future is so bright for this guy. And I do think, I think and I hope Guardiola continues to see him develop. And I hope Oscar Bobb is patient. Look, I understand why Cole Palmer wasn't patient, because he's around the first team for a lot. In fact, he was patient. He was around the first team for an awful long time. But what we need right now is we need Oscar Bobb to sort of basically understand that it's going to take an awful long time to get the chance to establish himself at the very top. It will do. He's going to have to be around his first team and wait for injuries and so on. Wait for his chance, because I think when other players come back, it might be a little bit harder. But the only thing I'm hoping is that if Haaland and De Bruyne are back and Doku, maybe there's some games where we're 3-0 up a little bit earlier and Oscar Bobb can get some more minutes, because I do think this guy has potential. How good can he be? Look, honestly, I believe with a little bit of luck, we're talking about an elite level footballer. I would consider Mahrez elite. I would consider Gundogan, Foden, people like that. Do I think he could be in that bracket for Manchester City? Absolutely. I really, truly believe he can, because he can beat a man, he can score a goal, he can play a pass. And when I saw him the other day, look, I think he's jumped ahead of, people like McAtee as well. Like, this could have been James McAtee if he'd hung around, but Oscar Bobb, I think he's actually ahead of him now, He's getting chances, he's impressing Guardiola, and his use of the ball is fantastic, and we have a special talent here. So that's all I want to talk about, guys. A quick video about Oscar Bobb. I do like this guy. I think he's an awful lot. He's got an awful lot to offer to this first team, and I think he's going to go really far in this game. Do let me know how far you think he can make it at Manchester City. Will he be around in a year or two from now? Will Guardiola find a place in the team for him? And what will his final position be in this Manchester City side? Thank you for watching this video. I'll be back live again tomorrow with another video, of course. Please go check out my website, stevecuppy.com. Follow me on socials as well over there. And Happy New Year once again. Let me know in the comments what you make of Oscar Bobb. Subscribe to the channel in a bit and have a wonderful evening.